Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me once again Jean Martineau. He's the president and CEO of Dynacor Gold Mines. It's been one of my personal favorites. It is one of my largest personal holdings. It's been in my newsletter since 2010. It's been a company that's been very successful, remarkably successful, having made money as a gold producer over the past number of years when the gold mining industry's really had a tough time of it. Companies of comparable size have either gone out of business or have gone into hibernation, essentially, but not Dynacor Gold Mines. They've continued to thrive during this downturn, but not only have they thrived and made profits and generated cash flows, but they have been expanding their business, and we're going to talk to Jean a little bit in just a second here to ask him about how they're progressing along a couple of different fronts that I think are very, very exciting. Not only has this company been able to hold its share count down to a mere 37.4 million shares, it's been able to do that because it's been a profitable company. It, believe it or not, believes that you need to, management believes you need to, do business the honest way. You produce profits, you generate products that people need, in this case gold, and you do it profitably, and you save your cash, and you use it to expand and grow. Almost a novel idea amongst mining companies these days, but one that is refreshing. One of the reasons that it is one of my favorite companies. The stock trades in Toronto under the symbol DNG. You can buy it in the United States under the symbol of DNGDF, which I have personally done. It's recently trading at around US $1.75, but with only 37 million shares out, it's got a market capital of a mere 65 million, which is exciting to me because it means there's an awful lot of upside potential for those of us that own the shares, given all the exciting things that Jean Martineau is doing with this company. So, Jean, I'm really pleased to have you with me again. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, good morning, Jay. It's a pleasure to be back with you today.
Always good to talk to you. I've known you now for 7 years or so since I first met up with you in Montreal back in 2010. Your business model has you buying gold, really gold, high-grade gold ore from small gold miners in Peru. There are literally hundreds of these people who are licensed by the Peruvian government that you deal with. And this business model really allows you to reduce risks from what, let's say, a normal mining company might experience. And one of the reasons you're able to build in a profit margin into all the ore that you buy. But it's not as if you're completely immune to the downside of the gold markets. You just come out with your earnings, 3.15 million US, or about 9 cents a share, I believe. So they're down a little bit from last year. Explain to us why your earnings are down a little bit, and maybe just explain the dynamics of your business model and why, although you have thrived and done extremely well, your profits and sales are off slightly from 2014.
Well, first of all, we have a gross margin on the operation. Our target is 17%. So if the gold price is $1,800, you earn more than when it's $1,000. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first and the main reason there. And the second reason here, our production is down a little bit, almost the same than last year. But we've got in 2013 we've got almost 77,000 ounces of gold. Last year we produced 67.
Mm-hmm.
The production of these small miners, just like big mines, gold price comes down, their volume will be reduced because they will leave on the spot the low grade. So what happened here for the last years, the ore volume came down. Mm-hmm. But the gold, the grade, the average grade went up. In 2013, for example, and before that, we had an average of 0.9 to 1 ounce per ton. Mm-hmm. Actually, we're almost at 1.25, but the volume is lower. Mm-hmm. So we have a lower volume, lower gold price, but because we keep a gross margin on this, we still making money. So that's why we say at almost any gold price, we're making money. For sure, there is a price under what shouldn't go, but we're earning money at almost any gold price. So we're earning less actually because of the gold price, and as I said, because of lower volume. But we're still making money. And now with the new mill coming pretty soon, we're going to be able to expand the production substantially. Because actually, don't forget that the mill we have, it's probably in the worst place around Chala. We're very far away. It's very long to go there. We cannot go there with big trailer trucks, so it's difficult to get new miners, to new providers for the mill. But as soon as we're going to be in Chala, we're going to have access to many more miners, and we expect to fill the mill very fast. So this year is going to be really a game changer with this new mill in Chala.
Well, we're really looking forward to that. So in spite of the disadvantages of having your out-of-the-way mill, you guys have been very successful over the years. So I think it's really exciting. I know that you talked to me before about the economics of the new mill, and there are several issues that come into play here that should really help the profit margins from what you've experienced before. Am I right about that? And if so, could you explain what those advantages are that should help your profit margins at Chala as opposed to your existing mill?
Yeah, there are several points here very important. First of all, where we are, we have to generate our own energy, which is with a cost of about 25 cents per kilowatt. Where we're going to be linked to the national grid. There, the cost will be probably around 8 cents, so we're going to cost that by 2/3. Besides that, where we are, the place for tailings is getting very difficult to. It's getting very difficult to expand the tailing place, and the actual tailing cost is about $14 to $15 per ton, which is quite expensive. And at the new place in Chala, the cost will be $1.74. So it's going to be much lower than what it is actually. Transportation costs, which are usually paid by the miners, but we have to pay the part of that, will be much lower than that. And the general operating costs, because this mill has been designed to start at 300 ton per day and has been designed to be expanded in two phases to 600 ton per day. So the daily operation will be much easier there. So it's going to lower the general cost. We're going to have a better operation, let's say, for example, pH control, automated. So we expect to lower the chemical reagent we're going to use there. So general operating costs will be lower too. So it's difficult now to give you a precise number of where we're going to be with the gross margin, but our target historically has been 17%, and we expect to increase that substantially because of all the points I told you.
All right. Well, I saw the other day that you made an announcement that your Chala mill is 90% complete now. When do you expect that mill will be commissioned, and when do you expect to start running ore through there on a commercial basis?
Well, we expect to finish completely the construction in the third week of April. It's almost done now. Well, mostly it's electrical connection and stuff like this. But we're going to be, the construction will be finished by third week of April. And after that, we have to go through 3 steps. Means that there we need to have the approval for the construction, which is the first step, and it's some weeks to get it, maximum 1 month. With this, we're going to have the water permit, which is another 2, 3, 4 weeks, and with this one, we get the final operating permit. So to go all through this paperwork, it's between 2 and 4 months. So if we finish the construction in April, we should be ready to start a mill between the end of June and I would say the end of July. This is our target, June, July.
All right. Well, we're really looking forward to that. And then once you start running some material through there, we'll have a better handle on the profit margins and all of that. So that'll be but it's hard to see how it would be worse. I mean, I can only imagine that it should be better given the factors that you're talking about. You are developing your own source of gold ore that you won't have to pay for, and that, as you've explained to me before, should bring with it much higher profit margins as well. And that's coming from a site that you have, a property that you have at Tumipampa. It's called Tumipampa in Peru. How soon do you expect that you might be producing gold from your own mine at
Well,
Tumipampa?
yeah, it was our objective here, and that's why we did the exploration mainly on the ground. But last year, I used to say that in 2015, Dynacor, 2015 has been a game changer for Dynacor in both divisions that we have, in the production and in the exploration. Because on the exploration side, we did a lot of underground development. It went very well. We have identified new mantos, new veins, very high grade. But during the year, we have discovered a large porphyry on the property, which is 1,700 meters by 750 meters. And just beside that, we have a disseminated associated zone there. So this is really a game changer there because it expands the potential there substantially. And the disseminated may be something fast to explore. And the porphyry itself, theoretically, it could be the source of the gold that we find around there. So actually, we are preparing a first 43-101 on the first part of the gold veins, the manto, the part we have been able to develop last year, and we're studying and verifying everything we have on a property with this porphyry with the disseminated zone, and to prepare the next exploration campaign there. So actually we have something much larger than what we expected at the beginning, and now it's really comparable geologically to all these big mines around, like Las Bambas, Los Chancas, Hakira, Constancia. It's the same geology there. So we're going to have to see how we're going to continue there. Sure, we're going to continue the underground development. We want to go as soon as possible, start some production on the veins, but at the same time we want to do the exploration on the porphyry and the disseminated, which could be something much larger, and with a disseminated zone there, it could be quite fast. So we are preparing all that. Actually, we are going to apply for an expanded exploration permit to be able to cover all that. So we have a lot of job to do in front of us. But let's wait. We're going to have, as I said, the first 43-101 report, which is just on a small part of the mantos, and from there we'll see how we can develop that and at what pace to prepare our first production. And at the same time, we want to do all. We have to complete all the surface exploration on the porphyry and the disseminated geophysical studies there and geochemical study to go on these two targets too, which are new, as I said, and it may be a real game changer there for Dynacor.
Well, I've certainly seen that as well. I mean, to me, one of the many things I've really liked about your company, Jean, is that not only are you avoiding dilution by cash flows and generating growth, sort of steady growth really in terms of your production and earnings and so forth over the years, but you also have this real blue sky, moonshot potential that you first talked about a skarn. Now you developed or have discovered the porphyry, as you mentioned, 1,700 meters by 750 meters, a very exciting potential, and you have all these gigantic world-class mines all around you there. So that certainly is exciting. But I guess your 43-101 on the underground high grade at Tumipampa, when do you expect that? Is that will happen this year sometime, right?
Yeah, we expect that by mid this year. Mm-hmm. And again, it's going to be a first one. It's just to build a mine around that. Mm-hmm. So it's first step to go with this, and we'll continue to develop. Now we have explored more on the east side of the crosscut, mm-hmm. and now we want to go on the west side because the west side looked much more promising, much more interesting. So we're going to have a lot of work to do on that side too, and so we're going to need some money for that. But with the new mill starting, let's say in July. It's going to be June, July, beginning of August, I guess, at a maximum. We're going to generate a lot of cash with this one because It's going to be 300 ton per day. We expect to go quite fast at that volume. And with this, we're going to expand. We're going to increase substantially our profit, our cash flow. So with this, we should have all the means we need to go to explore and develop Tumipampa and on all the aspect there. And even there, when we're going to be at Chala, we think that we can increase that fast to 300 ton per day. And from there, we're going to assess. We can go with the same permit to 360 ton per day, 28% over the actual permit. Mm-hmm. So if things are going well, and when we look at the gold price, actually, it looks like gold price just want to continue increase. If it's the case, we may be at 360 ton per day quite fast, mm-hmm. and after that, we're going to apply for a permit to go to 450 and 600 ton per day. So mm-hmm. We're going to increase the production there substantially, very fast. Mm-hmm. And with this, we're going to have all the mean we need to develop Tumipampa. And Tumipampa, as I said, it's another game changer on the exploration side. Because of all that, as you said, we discovered a skarn years ago, and we know that there was a porphyry around there, but porphyry may be very deep on the ground, and now it's not the case. We found it, so we have a huge potential there, and we're very excited to go there and do all the exploration we need there.
I'm excited about that too, but what I'm not quite understanding yet, I don't know if you know. Exactly when you might start some high-grade production at, I presume, at Chala from Tumipampa, or are you waiting and leaving that open in terms of the timing of that based on your 4301 and ongoing exploration? I guess there's a lot of different moving parts that might not allow you to say exactly when you might see some production coming from Tumipampa from the high-grade veins.
Yeah, to start production there, we have to apply for a mining permit, extraction permit. This is a process of about 18 to 24 months in Peru, and before that, we have to prepare a mining plan. So with this, we need a 43101 report, and what I wanted to have, it's at least maybe a year and a half or 2 years of resources identified there and do that. So with the 43101 report and with other works before the end of this year, we're going to see when we can start it. But it could be, let's say we are the first quarter of 2016. It could be in 2 years and a half from now, for example. And we'll have the Huanca mill idle there. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, we want to use that mill to do box sampling on the Tumipampa property, on the Tumipampa ore, and there we're going to be able to adjust that, do all our pre-feasibility study with this. It's going to give us a lot of flexibility. And after that, when we're going to be ready in Tumipampa, let's say to start a small production of 200 or 300 ton per day, there we may use the Chala mill at that time, expanded mill there, or use the Huanca mill. We're going to have this flexibility. But to answer your question, it could be at a minimum in a couple of years from now.
Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, you are able to do some bulk sampling as part of your feasibility work, I guess, your economic studies of the underground.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We already did some metallurgical test on the ore in Tumipampa. We press released that, I think it was August last year, and the results were just wonderful because we could recover up to 96% of the gold. We could recover 76 or 78, not sure, 76, I think, % of the gold just by gravimetric methods, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So, but because of the presence of copper there, we have quite a lot of copper. We would need probably to install flotation cells, but it's part of the game, and it's what we're gonna do doing the box sampling. You know, this mill, Huanca mill, will be a wonderful tool to use for that.
Wonderful.
So we can do some trying here and there, and modify the mill as we want, and do the box sampling. And during these 2 years and a half, we're gonna have a lot of time to do that, to know exactly the kind of mill we're going to need there.
Gene, what question I have for you, one that's come up to me when I was in Toronto recently, and I was talking to various people about your project, and you've been very successful with this ore purchasing business, and some people are suggesting that maybe you should just stick to your knitting. That's what you're good at. You shouldn't spend too much time, energy, in exploring and developing and mining itself. It's my understanding that when you start mining at Tumipampa, you expect to use contract miners. But what do you say to people who are suggesting that, maybe you should just turn it over to a major, this porphyry deposit, and let the guys that have the big bucks and the exploration experience, do the, really get a joint venture partner in there to spend their money and develop what might be a major project?
Well, we are at the beginning we were an exploration company, and so it's something that we used to that, and we were comfortable with that. And beside that, many mines are discovered by small exploration companies. They're doing the first steps. So big companies are not necessarily better than small companies to discover to do the first step of that.
For sure.
Besides that, up to the point we are today in Tumipampa, we convince in a company that we have a mine there. What is the size of that? We're gonna have to define that. Is the porphyry economic? We have to find out. Where is the disseminated? There is economic. We have to find out. But what we found in the veins and the mantos today tells us that we have a mine there. We have to define reserves and resources and establish that. So actually, if we go to find a partner for this, we're going to have to leave on the table a large part of that property to a big company putting money there. And we have the cash to do that. So every time we put cash there, we increase the value of the property exponentially. So last year I was at the PDAC in Toronto, and a large company came to see me, and they said, well, we're interested by Tumipampa. Would like to have a joint venture with you there. I said, if I give you an option today, you're going to tell me, well, okay, you spend so much, we're going to put $8 million in some years, and we're going to get 50% of that. And I answered, we have that cash. We're going to put that cash in the property, and next year, you won't have to put $7 million to get 50% of that. You're going to have to put $20 million or $50 million. So he looked at me and he said, well, it's exactly the case. So we're not a small exploration company pushed in a corner, and we need to finance at any cost and sell 50% of that. We have the means to continue there, and we know that we have a mine in our hands there. We're convinced of that. So it's much better to continue the exploration. And let's say if we have just the veins and the manto, is something that we could put in production ourselves easily, because we have the exploration team, we have the mill, we know how to operate that, and we hire the contractors to mine it, and we truck it down to Wanka, for example. Now, if we have a huge porphyry of the skarn is a large deposit, there we're speaking on another scale. It's a much more exploration there. It's much longer, and it's a lot of investment. There we can do the first steps and see at any point, okay, here what we do. We're going to get a partner for the skarn or for the porphyry, or we can, everything will be on the table. But what we want to do is give the maximum value to the shares, to our shareholders.
Sure.
And we feel that actually we're going to give them much more value continuing the exploration ourselves than giving that at this point to a large company.
Yeah, so at some point, when you establish that you've got a monster on your hands that would be better left, when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars potentially for CapEx and that sort of thing, and all of the expertise that's required to build a huge world-class mine, you might consider at that point allowing one of those surrounding neighbors perhaps to come in and be your partner.
Oh, sure, because as I said, there are several big mines around there. There is interest in Tumipampa, actually, to say the truth. But I want to push that as much as we can. And there we're going to see, because if it's a huge project and we need billions of dollars to develop that,
Yeah.
well, guys, we're going to sit down and see what we can do, and everything will be on the table, you know. But for the moment, I think it's much better for all the shareholders to continue the exploration ourselves.
Leverage up and lower cost, earlier stage exploration. That certainly makes a lot of sense to me, Jean. These are the questions that I have for you. Anything else you'd like to mention that maybe I haven't thought of asking you about that's important?
Well, you know, Tumipampa is on a good way. This year we're going to ask for an expanded exploration permit to be able to cover all the property. It's going very well on that side. On the milling, now we're in a rush to start it. As you probably saw, we signed a financial agreement in the beginning of January to have we have a $10 million financial DG where we can use part of that, or it was to be sure that we're going to have enough money to finish the mill, start a mill, and buy a lot more ore than what we had. So we just wanted to have the security there. So at this moment, the main target and the most important target for us is to start a mill. So as soon as we start a mill, we think that we're going to generate a lot more cash flow than with the Wonka mill, because the cost will be much lower. The production will be 50 to 70% more than what it is actually. And we're going to have the potential there to increase the buying, because we're going to be just at 5 kilometers from the main road, and we're going to have access to all the miners. In fact, actually, we have the worst. We have the mill in the worst place around Chala. It's 8 hours from the highway, and where we're going to be in the best place of all, and we're going to have the most efficient mill. Our recovery rate, I remember to you that our recovery rate is 94.5, 95%. And with the new mill, we may be even able to increase that a little bit. So with a recovery rate like this, we can attract the best miners, you know, and this is what's happening now. But in Chala, we're going to have much more access to that. And now with the gold price coming up again, the volume will increase too. So this is a real game changer, and this is what we're concentrated actually, starting the mill, and with this we're going to have everything in front of us.
Well, it certainly does seem as though the stars are being aligned for you now. So we'll be looking forward to the completion and startup of the new mill, and towards the end of the year, maybe have some sense of the economics of that. We're looking for your 43-101 middle of the year. That's another driver. And then I suppose we might see exploration results forthcoming at Tumipampa in terms of the porphyry as well, Jean, this year?
Actually, we're finishing all putting all the data together. We're going to have this first 43-101, and I want to have a technical report on this porphyry, the disseminated, the skarn. It's a huge property. You know, we have 46 square kilometers there. It's huge. So it's not a job that you can do in a couple months.
Sure.
But we want to go ahead as soon as possible on this porphyry, on the skarn, but the next main target will be porphyry and the disseminated, and eventually we'll continue our underground development too on the veins and mantos to prepare our first production there.
All right. Well, it's a very exciting story. One of my favorite gold stocks. You guys have just done a remarkable job. Thanks so much again for being with us to tell our listeners about Dynacor Gold Mines, and I look forward to keeping up to date with you on an ongoing basis, Jean. Thank you so much for being with us.
Okay, Jay, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure again.